Good afternoon. I am Paula Fontana, Vice President of Development with the National Black MBA Association. And we are the leading catalyst for economic empowerment and career advancement through a global network of transformative leaders. And it is my pleasure to welcome you to Authentically You. So, showing up authentically means bringing your true self, your values, your personality, your unique perspectives to any room you enter. And it's really about minimizing that gap between who you genuinely are and who you present yourself to be. When you can be your authentic self, you feel more comfortable, accepted, valued, and more of a sense of belonging. And so, in a work setting, this tends to lead to higher job satisfaction and greater engagement. You're not spending your time performing a different persona, which basically helps you be more mentally and emotionally available, if you will. So, today we are talking about authenticity through one of my favorite lenses, bringing your personal style to professional places. And I am joined by the fantastic Nana Badu, who changes lives through style. A former management consultant turned image consultant, she first learned the career changing power of style, authenticity, and confidence. Through her styling and image consulting firm, Badu Basics, she helps highly visible women of color transform their wardrobe from unnoticed to unmissable. Leveraging 15 years in management consulting for IBM and Deloitte, her workshops and trainings teach professionals how to unlock a confident, authentic image to position themselves for their next big career move. She is an instructor at the Fashion Institute of Technology, where she also received her image consultant certification. She calls Ghana and Brooklyn, New York home and is living her best life with her deliciously fly husband, per her words. Nana, welcome.
Thank you so much, Paula. That's amazing. I need to record that and play that at least once a week. Like you got to hear somebody else tell a little bit about who you are.
Right,
I
right.
love that. Thank you so
Yes. So let's start broad with this particular conversation. And I've heard the term before, showing up professional to work.
much.
So, professionalism, how has that uniquely impacted Black professionals, specifically with their ability to show up authentically to their workplace?
Yeah. You know, the word professional and professionalism feels very layered, I
Hmm.
think, in this day and age. And it's even very different generationally in terms of what it means. I think one thing for me at a baseline is that you feeling professional is a lot more deeper than how you look, right? It is part of your identity. It is the way you engage with people. It is the self respect you have. It is the care that you give to your work. It's your integrity. It's coming to work and delivering on time, on task. It is performing at your most excellent level, right? To be a professional is someone who is trusted and dependable, that you rely on. So, have a baseline for yourself about what that word means to you and how that connects to your identity, just period,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
But then moving into, especially being a Black professional in this space and showing up professionally, you know, we are always under this microscope, especially when it comes to how we look, right? From our skin to the hair coming out of our head, right? And so you've seen, and if you haven't heard of national efforts like the Crown Act that
Yep.
talk about just us being able to wear our natural hair, whether it's locks, your curls, etc., without judgment in the workplace, and without vitriol, right? Like without being sued, without feeling biased, all these things, you know?
Right.
Yeah. So it's very real if you find yourself each morning getting dressed or at the hair salon thinking about an interview you have and wondering about, well, what style should I do? I got to take these braids out. I need to get this silk pressed so that it's nice and straight because I want to be seen as professional
Right.
to this audience, right? So it's like you have to have a check for yourself
Mhm.
about what is it that makes me professional, like, and baseline and anchor yourself in that, and then start to think about how you're showing up from your clothing to your beauty, and think about what makes you feel at your best when you are presenting yourself, because it is so much about an internal energy that you are giving, right?
Right.
So I pause there. You know, we can keep it
Yeah.
pushing. What
We
which
we
yes.
absolutely can, girl. When you were talking, I'm like, okay, there's so many angles. I think I can go here. I'm going to try to stay on task as much as possible, but I do want to mention to our listeners that this is very much a conversation. And so, as you start to think of questions that you want to ask, either Nana or or myself, feel free to put them in the chat, and we will try to get to as many questions as we possibly can during our time together. So you mentioned, when I think about, let's say, style versus image, right? Style, I think about what you have on your body, how
Hmm.
you're presenting yourself externally, whereas image is all the things that you talked about, how you project your voice. Are you standing up straight?
Yes.
Are you on time? So both of those things are important. Specifically with our culture, Black people, sometimes there is this pressure to code switch,
Yeah.
sort of be one way
Yeah.
at home, let's say, versus another way in the office. How would you personally define and sort of navigate between adapting your image for professional versus compromising your authentic self? Is there a compromise there?
Yeah. Listen, code switching is real. I've done it, and I'm sure it's so ingrained in my subconscious. I'm sure there are times I'm probably doing I'm not even aware of in different spaces that I'm in, because you know navigating the career space, no matter whether you're an entrepreneur or you're in corporate or any field, right? There are going to be spaces that make you feel uncomfortable, right? And that's when you feel uncomfortability, that all of a sudden you can feel your authenticity feeling compromised, right? You're
Mhm.
like, either I'm intimidated oftentimes by the other people that are in this space. I've never been in a room with this many white people, potentially. Maybe you are the only in the space, right? Judgment, so many things happening at one time that make you feel uncomfortable. So when you're looking and thinking about like all of these things that are happening for you, especially when you think about the totality of your image, right? You really have to find your sources of confidence, right? You really have to know what it is that makes you feel, again, at your best when you are presenting yourself. And one of the things that I learned when I was getting my image consulting certification at FIT is what we call the ABCDs of image, and that's your appearance, behavior, communication, and digital presence.
Hmm.
Appearance, behavior, communication, and digital presence. So really think about how all four are at work for yourself in the space, and understanding like, so where am I code switching? Where am I feeling uncomfortable, awkward? And that might be because of bias. That might be because you're being challenged and it's difficult, right? Identify what's happening and start to think of like, why am I like a lot of this stuff is so much deeper than just the outward, right? You got to understand the why, because one of the biggest things that I say that I've learned and that I've seen in clients that I've worked with is, as you become more confident in yourself, your conviction in who you are is way more respected than the conformity.
Mm, mm. Say
So
that again. Conviction over conformity.
conviction is way more respected than conformity. When you're conforming to what everyone else is wearing, everyone's wearing black, navy, gray in the office, classic single button blazer, right? The pants, no shade to Ann Taylor because Ann Taylor has evolved. But you know, maybe your rendition of Ann Taylor is circa 96, not 2024, you know? And so the gray is looking a little dusty, the black is not popping, but you're like, you know what though? This is a really classic and professional suit. Everyone's wearing it. I know that I will be seen as serious and respected and a consummate professional in my field. Now, there are elements of that that might be true. There's also an element of that in which you are going to be lost in the sauce. You're
Mm,
going to blend in just like everyone else visually. So when someone meets you and has the opportunity to make an impression with you visually, right? They see you and the bias and the opinions and all these things form. It happens within seconds. What are they seeing? What are they feeling? And if that is just your carbon copy of what you think you have to show up as, pause.
mm,
Pause. You have to have a conversation with yourself about how do I want to show up in this space? What do I want people to say about me when they see me? When I'm not in these spaces, what do I want them to say? What do I want to be known for?
mm,
Right?
mm.
Like, I think these are some of the things you want to start to think about if you're really in that space. I saw some in the comments say, like, I'm afraid to be myself, right? If you are afraid to be yourself, like, why? And
Right.
what is happening that's triggering that kind of emotion?
Right, right, right. Yeah, so I wanted to double click on that too. And a word that you used a couple times was uncomfortable.
Mm,
So, from my perspective, if I am uncomfortable someplace repeatedly, that is a cue to me that I don't belong there.
say it.
Is that something that you sort of counsel people who you work with, right? So, are they trying to fit into a box that perhaps they have outgrown or they don't belong in?
Yeah. You know, sometimes that happens for sure. Like, you, you can have instances, right, where you might have colleagues and peers who, you're changing your hairstyle. One day it's box braids, next time you got weave, next time you got your hair out and some cute puffs, right? And people are like, oh my gosh, it's just really amazing how you're changing your hair, like, and then you see the lean-ins for the touch. Right? And this is a space, right? Like, y'all, I see hand claps in the chat. Like, listen, we have all been in that space where people's ignorance is on full display, and people are not even self-aware that they are doing or saying things that are making you or anyone else feel uncomfortable and commenting on your appearance, right? They may be commenting on your cultural garb. Oh my, where is that from? But the from is not intrigue. The
Mm,
from is judgment, right? Like, is
yes.
that something you should be wearing in the office, right? Like that is the underbelly of what you're feeling, right? But
Right.
I say, like, reclaim the power. Reclaim the power.
Mhm.
All of those instances are places where you can just easily start to give your power away, and they make you feel uncomfortable. No ma'am, no sir. Like, absolutely, I love changing my hair. Like, that's why I love being a Black woman, because we have this kind of dexterity. So what was on the agenda today? Like, reclaim it. Like, I love wearing pieces from my culture. My family's from Ghana. Oh, where's this piece from? Oh, absolutely, mom got me this from her last trip. Like, that is my space
Mm,
that makes me feel good when I wear these kinds of pieces with my suits. I love a statement necklace. Like, allow it to be something that you are intentionally doing and showing up with your style in this way. It's not something that someone is just going to claim bias and ignorance and reclaim all the power. No, we done had enough of that. You claim it.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So you said something earlier I really don't want to overlook. I want to go back to it. You mentioned the blue, gray, black suit.
Mhm,
So I am Gen X,
mhm.
and when I entered the workforce, those suits were considered the gold standard, right? If you wanted to be successful in business, you were going to show up that way. And certainly in an interview, that is still the expectation. Um, but then you said something about blending in and looking like everybody else. And then I started itching because I was like, I can't, what you talking about? Is there sort of a time and place, right? Is there a time and place, let's say, for the blue suit? Or perhaps if you are in a particular industry, understand that there are limitations or expectations, might be a better word, for you to have that blue dark suit for people to take you seriously versus perhaps another environment, a different type of industry. So how do you sort of counsel your clients on the suits versus not, the colors and all of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, one, you want to understand the industry that you're in and your company culture, right? You want to understand that from multiple angles. Understanding how people are dressing and
Mm,
showing up in that space is an equally important element you want to consider, right? And so, you know, my clients that are in finance and that are attorneys, right? Black, gray, navy, like you said, the bedrock of their wardrobe in so many ways. Now, the piece about it is there's nothing bad about that. It's not bad to have that color scheme in your closet. But the question becomes that as you grow in your career and you get stronger in your abilities and your thought leadership, that your wardrobe should evolve as well.
mm,
So oftentimes when you are just starting out, you are so concerned about fitting in because you're uncertain, right? About the office politics and the
mm,
dynamics. So you're like, or an interview, right? You're like, here, let me like maintain the base of
right.
professionalism, right? No problem. But how are you then bringing part of your part personality and showing who you are in that? You can still do that. So there's a couple of ways that I like to call this out. I tell my clients something called the cab all the time. The cab is clothing, accessories, and beauty. Clothing, accessories, and beauty, right? Three keys to your look. You want to have a great, cohesive, well to put together look. All three need to be in place. Okay. And so if you have that black suit, right, one, make sure it is tailored well, that it fits your body well. Not too tight, not too short, not too low cut, but that it's a good fit for you.
Mm,
Fit is hands down one of the most important spaces that people, quite honestly, where professionalism goes wrong is really more about the fit and less about sometimes the color and all these other pieces. It's really that something is ill-fitting, and that gives off the impression that is this someone that really takes care into how they put themselves together if their suit is two size bigger than their frame,
mm.
right? Or this suit is two top sizes too small for their frame, right? Like there is an impression that that gives off, right? So fit is so important when you're talking about your clothes. So make sure if it's that black suit, make sure that that joint is on point. If you're petite, get it hemmed. Go
Mm,
on Amazon. They have these great adhesive stickers that you can put on the inside of the bottom hem of your pant and iron them on, and you instantly can shorten that pant length. Right? So there are multiple hacks. If you're not, depending on your budget, if it's getting something custom and tailored, or if you've got to go to Amazon and get some hacks just to make something work. Right? So clothing, when it comes to clothing, fit is a big one. That second piece, your accessories, my goodness, like folks. The jewelry, the earrings, necklaces. Let's get into some brooches, a great statement watch, belts with a great gold buckle or emblem, right? A great quality shoe, an amazing bag that you're wearing to work every day. Like, these are the things that separate someone who just takes, again, the black suit that they just got at Macy's, and takes the black suit and the white camisole and black ballet flats and says, I'm ready for the interview. Versus someone who gets that black suit and says, how am I going to add some visual wow so that the person on the other end gets a little bit more excited and intrigued about who I am?
And we
So if
call it like wearing versus styling, right?
yes, right. How are we doing that? Are we going to add some brooches? Is it the same necklace? Do you have a prescription with glasses? Maybe you need to upgrade your frames so that every time you wear them, you can give that energy like Paula and I. Like, these are some simple things, but they can be really smart investments to immediately elevate your look, but also take what might seem like a basic standard within an industry where black and gray and navy are the uniform, and you're not sure, like, what should I do? Because I don't feel comfortable just showing up in a red suit head to toe. That's okay.
Mhm.
That might not be you, right? That might not be you, but maybe a red lip is, maybe a red pair of frames is, maybe red nail polish is, right? Maybe that's how you're adding some of your personality in through your beauty.
I love that. So I want to talk a little bit more about accessories, of course, but I want to go back to Daniel Young's point about hair.
Mm.
In the chat, he
Mhm.
says black hair is beautiful, versatile, and expressive. However, it's also been unfairly scrutinized for generations. And the concern isn't the hair itself, but the systems that still struggle to accept it. So, thank you for that
Mhm.
point.
Yeah.
I could say, one of my personal stories is that, for years I had, I call the spike, short spiked hair,
Uh-huh.
but that required a weekly appointment to get
Yeah.
it. So that's time that was being taken away from me on a
Mhm.
weekly basis. Not to mention that my hair is, I got to go through the whole perming process, just the whole situation. So I
Mhm.
decided about 15 years ago to cut all my hair off because I no longer needed it.
Wow. Mm.
Um, but it was during a transition of a work environment as well. But for me, it was kind of how I mentioned before. If I'm uncomfortable someplace or if it doesn't accept me, I mean, this is who I am.
That's right.
And if you didn't like this, if you don't appreciate it, that's fine. We're just not meant for each other. It's not the right space.
Yeah.
But obviously, not everyone has that type of flexibility. So, hair, I mean, like you mentioned, being able to change it up on a dime is something that is just part of who we are,
Right.
almost as our identity. Do you have things that you recommend to your clients about like how they style their hair? And I'll say, does it matter if it's, let's say, interview versus you've been established at your job for a while, or maybe it's even generational, right? So are you first starting your career
Mhm.
versus later on in your career? Are there differences or things that you might say that people do differently?
Yeah. That's an interesting question. I I always invite my clients to collaborate and co-create, especially when it comes to the hair space, right? And so there are certain styles that I think we all know. You have one or two go-to styles and you're like, I always feel at my best in
Mm,
this,
mhm,
right? And so I'm like, what are those? Like, show me the pictures. And it's it just is so instant when you have one style and you see the picture and you're like, right, versus another, you're like, this wasn't exactly what I wanted, right? So you go with what works, especially when you have big events, when you have the interview, when you're going to be on stage, when you have an important presentation, right? Stick with what you know works and helps you feel confident going into the space, right? Sometimes that's not the best moment to be experimenting with a new color or be, or say like, oh, I'm getting I'm getting headshots taken, so I thought I'd try something new. Why? I don't know. That's the headshot is going to be
It will live.
virtually on the company's site, on your LinkedIn, on your website, right? So have your go-to style that you know works. I think from my perspective as an image consultant, I like to talk to my clients about other things in terms of, length and volume and how it frames your face with
Mm,
hair. Because there's something that I teach my clients in terms of focal points. And focal points are the elements of your look that draw the most attention, right? And so when you see someone, there are things that just immediately leap off the screen, right? And so, like, we might be looking at Miss Paula, and it's like, oh my gosh, look at this blouse. Like, I'm not sure if it's a blouse or a dress, but it's the colors, right? That V-neck crisscross is gorgeous, right? We're taking in the green glasses that complement the color as well, right? Like, these are the things that are bouncing off of the screen, right? And then you've got your bold hair, which is an amazing choice that you made 15 years ago. Did y'all hear that part? I said, you better know yourself, but it's so beautiful, right? Now, what if someone else had an afro or had braids or had larger volume hair, right? As an image consultant, especially if I'm looking at you visually on a screen for potentially like a headshot picture, I might be giving you tips around styling your hair so that I don't get distracted from your face and the print in your top, and
mhm.
that the attention is fully on your face because your eyes, your mouth, like, we want it all to make sense and feel good. And you want people to be leaning in to listen to you, right? So your hair is another element of a focal point that you want to consider in terms of what kind of attention do I draw in about what I'm wearing in terms of my appearance from head to toe. So want you to think about that, especially if you've got locks, like, and hair with volume, like, that's a whole personality unto itself, right? And so you want to take that part in, and if that's the main attraction, no pun intended, right? Like, let that be the thing, and then say, okay, maybe what's the one other focal point that I want to draw into my face or my outfit, if I'm going on an interview virtually and I know I've got a box, right? And I want people to be drawn in. Maybe you're going to go for a brighter color in the top. These are the things you want to think about. So think about the 1 to 3 focal points, the areas that draw the most attention in your look, and keep your hair and beauty in mind when you're thinking about that.
Mhm. Um, those are great tips. Uh,
Yeah.
Something else you mentioned or described was wear what feels good. And I've noticed that both clothing as well as accessories, whenever they are Black owned, ethnically inspired African print, like, I feel my most powerful self. I
Hmm.
feel like the ancestors would have risen up and they have applauded my efforts for what I am doing that day. And so when you are encouraging people around that sort of evolving, maybe they haven't quite figured out what their personal style is, how do you help them identify like what resonates with them?
Yeah, this is a big one. Like, the most important step to figuring out what your personal style is clarity. You have to be clear about what your personal style is. And clarity to me looks like being able to define it, right? So if I ask you what's your style in 3 words, people, you want to be able to say what it is, right? You want to be able to quickly describe, right? And 3 words is so simple, but if you're sitting here, you're like, I don't know, I'm unsure. Or if you pick 3 words and you don't like those 3 words that you picked, right? Like, then like, I need to make some kind of shift where my style is. And in some cases, you might have a definition of what your style is now, but you have a bigger vision of what you actually want it to be,
Mm, mhm.
right? So that's where we start to think about putting together a mood board, right? And really getting some inspiration around what you desire for your style, because this, again, is something that can evolve over time. So lean into Instagram, save images there, Pinterest. I
Mm.
mean, you get old school with it and get some magazines and have yourself a little arts and crafts day, right? Like whatever makes the most sense for you. But there's so many images in this, especially digital landscape, where you can get inspiration for your style in so many different levels. And I think two things when folks are putting together those mood boards that I would encourage you to consider is, one, getting inspiration from folks who do have features similar to yours and body shapes similar to yours,
Mm.
because that helps amplify you to say, like, I could do that. Like she is me, he is me. Like, yeah, I can see myself. I have broad shoulders. Like, yes, like I have hips and a booty, but she's making it work in the curves, right? You want to see that demonstrated in someone else, and that could be a major source of inspiration for you. And then also, and this is something I think, Paula, we were chatting about another point in time, is just how much style is energy, right? And how much you want to find folks who you see and admire. And just when you see them, every time you like, she bad. Like from the way that she enters the room, facilitates a meeting, the pictures they post, that you're just inspired by this individual, right? So I know for me, that looks like the Michelle Obamas and Bozeman St. John's
Mm.
of the world, right? Like those are folks who I'm like, how they moving, and taking it all in, right? And you can, and even in both of those examples of these two women, you can see the evolution of their style, right?
Right,
Play
right.
the tape back to 2008 when the Obamas came to the White House,
Yeah,
and Michelle started as a former first lady, right? To now, where she's on tour with her book, like
right.
box braids, cargo
Yes.
jeans, tank top, which I want from
The
me.
long braid. That is
Long
like, yes,
braids,
yes.
right? Versus sheath dresses and kitten heels, right? And even all kinds of variations in that, right? Similar to Bozeman St. John when she was working at Apple. Like I remember her TED Talk address that she did. Like she had this peach sheath dress on and curly hair. And then now, she's got a full hair care line. She's on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, I think it is. And she's working all kinds of corporate and global spaces, wearing everything from Ghanaian designers
Mhm.
to, tropical dusters,
Right,
right?
right.
And so again, your career, your style, it will evolve as you get stronger, as you know yourself more, as you start to have more conviction in knowing that, like, I'm showing up to this space and I bring value, and I want to show up in a way that makes me feel most confident. And I know that that's actually going to be an asset. It's not a liability. It's an asset for you to show up in that space, and people will start to receive you favorably well. So, get that inspiration going.
Uh-huh. I love it. And then the accessories that we talked about, using them, let's say if you are in an environment where you have to wear a traditional color or whatever the case may be, playing up the power of accessories. How do you do that? I know you talked about focal points before, but let's sort of get in a little bit more with the accessories. How do you infuse that personality and authenticity into that style so it doesn't feel out of place?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you want to think about kind of color and texture are some really important pieces to think about when you're looking at your accessories,
Mhm.
right? Um, Color is an amazing, clearly, I hate color, but color,
Clearly, clearly.
color is hands down one of the best ways to add pieces of your personality to your look, from your clothing to your accessory pieces. So if you're looking in your wardrobe and you're finding that you have a large neutral palette, right? You can begin to incorporate just some pops of color, whether it's in a necklace, Maybe the necklace is beaded. Maybe it is a gold pendant and it has your birthstone on it, right? That has a little personal touch to it, right? You can begin to incorporate those colors, especially in areas that are closest to your face, right? That draws people in again to bring the attention here, right? And as you look visually too, and taking pictures and having an online presence, right? Having really flattering colors in your accessories that are closest to your face can help communicate that. So I think that's one thing to think about that in terms of color and again in the textures, whether it's metals or beads that you are going for in your accessories. I think another thing to think about in accessories is incorporating jewelry and non-jewelry pieces
Mm-hmm.
in your look. So I mentioned this earlier, but I didn't quite frame it this way. But an earring, a necklace, a ring, those are pretty much your go-tos when you think about accessories, right? You think about those pieces, maybe a bracelet, but think about things that are not in those areas. So those goes to your glasses. Now, for me, whether you have a prescription or not, I think glasses are one of the most fun ways to incorporate a little bit of your personality. It can also just give you a little studious nod. Maybe you want to just get into your feels and be like, yes, I'm on my academic today, right? Like it just communicates a little something extra that's intriguing. And it's, once again, it's prominent on your face, right? There could be hats. You do not have to wear a grandeur hat like mine. This is part of my personality, right? But maybe you might be doing a beret. Maybe there might be another style of hat that really works well for you. Your handbags, your ties, your socks, especially for my men in the room, right? You might be doing like having a really great assortment of ties, pocket squares, cool socks, right? Like these are the ways that you can begin to incorporate accessories into the look that can even become part of your signature, right? Like I know clients that they're like, oh, people are always ready. I have one client into the frames. People are like, what glasses you gonna wear today, right? And it's a fun way where you can balance things where maybe you're investing in a few pairs that are of high quality, and then you might have some others that are lower quality pieces that maybe you've gotten from online from like Vlog or something, and you paid a lower cost for them. You didn't invest too much. But allow accessories to be something that is going to be a personal touch for you. It's either fun, funny, a personal sentiment, has a good story to it, and it's going to be a conversation starter, right? This is going to be something that someone's going to compliment you on. And from there, you're going to have a great story about where you purchased it or why it's meaningful to you.
Good stuff. So we have a question from one of our viewers. They'd like to know what three words describe your style?
Oh, okay. Colorful,
Hmm.
energetic, and sophisticated.
Ah, I love that. I love it. Colorful, energetic, and sophisticated. Yep, I would
Hmm.
say that describes you from what I've known.
Okay. And now, come on. I want to know, what are your three words, Paula?
I'm Afrocentric,
Mhm.
fly, and bold.
Afrocentric, fly, and bold. I love it.
Yes,
I
yes.
love it. Yes, that registers. And,
So,
and side note, sorry, but I gotta put this in here because for anyone who does not know, go Google Paula on
no,
Instagram.
we're not doing that today. We're not
No, 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 no.
doing
Because you need to go follow this woman's Instagram page and see all the Afrocentric fly boldness that she delivers with like wonderful scoops of affirmation. So
Bless you. Bless
do
you.
that.
Um, so we have another question from a viewer who wants to know, with the rise of AI generated headshots and visual content, how do you see this technology influencing the way we express personal style? And how can we ensure authenticity isn't lost in the process?
Mm, this is a tough one. This
Mm,
is a tough one You know, there's all kinds of, obviously AI is growing like exponentially in all kinds of fields,
Mhm.
and they've got all these challenges and prompts you can give AI, and then people, I was like, I think I saw the one where you're like a doll in a case. I said, I almost took me out. I said, okay, what's happening? But like, in one regard, I think that you can use a tool to be helpful for you personally, right? And so I have not done this, but I've seen, like I mentioned in some of these challenges, where folks will ask a prompt to AI and they may upload pictures of themselves and say, you might ask AI, who would you, I'm looking to update my style. Are there any style influencers that you would recommend that I follow or, connect with, right? Like, or are there some stores that you'd recommend that I shop because my style is currently these three words, but I want it to be these three words, right?
Mhm.
So there are different ways that maybe you can use AI in terms of how you're showing up to get some information that's going to, lend well for you. In terms of the images that are out there with folks in manufactured headshot pictures and stuff, that's not my personal cup of tea. I say, like, go get in person, go connect with a great photographer, have a day of like looking and feeling at your best and getting your hair done and getting your suit pressed and take some pictures and have like a real in real life experience.
Mhm.
For me, I'm going to recommend that all day.
Me too. Me too. So I know that you work a lot with women leaders, specifically in management roles. And so I would love to know how do you recommend they model authenticity and to be able to project, let's say, authority and confidence while being
Mhm.
in that leadership position? Are there certain cues visually that signal those things?
Yes, 100%. The first one I already touched on, we're going to talk about again, is number one, fit.
Mm. Hmm.
Without a doubt. Like, I'm just going to pause for fit.
For
Like,
pause. We
yeah.
have a moment of silence for fit.
Exactly. We're going to have a okay, because that is hands down the difference when you are getting pieces that fit you well. And in cases where, especially too, when you might be moving from a junior level to management, or even management into senior or executive roles, like, there are ways that, I want to say this. Basically, if you take a classic suit, you are better off at investing a little bit less to get a suit off the rack and then saving part of your budget to take it to a tailor to get it
Mm.
alterations, right? Or maybe perhaps you might get the buttons changed on the suit. Maybe you might add some buttons to the suit, right? But allowing, and that's where, your creativity and you playing with your style comes into play.
I like
But making sure that the fit is on point is hands down the number one space that separates the junior
that.
from the
Mhm.
leaders. um, I think the other part is is definitely having clarity and having a personal style and being consistent in it. Like, folks at in leadership positions consistently show up stylish.
Mm.
It doesn't matter if it's classic look, super creative, Afrocentric, nuanced, feminine, sophisticated, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what the style is. But they are consistent in how they show up in it. And they typically have some kind of element that's part of their signature, right? So whether
Mhm.
it's something in the accessory where it's always a dope sneaker, right? Like, they're always gonna wear a suit, but it's a sneaker. Right? Like, they're like, nope, my feet, I gotta be comfortable. So you're always gonna see me rocking a sneaker with mine, right? Or maybe it is cultural nods. So there's always going to be a print happening, right? But there's an element. in their style that becomes part of their signature. And so much so that if you had to describe their style to somebody else, you could.
You could do it.
You could do it because you've seen them so consistently show up in it that you're like, oh, her style is always da 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 da. His
Right.
style is always right. So that's what I see. It's just it's a there's a care and there's an attention to detail
Mm,
that you give at that level that shows I am really rooted and grounded in who I am, and I know that entering into this space, like I have a closet filled with pieces that feel good with me and look good for where my body is right now and where I am right now, and also too probably where I'm trying to go,
right, right, right.
right? Because I'm gonna be stepping into some rooms, and you know you might get that one piece that you're like, man, when I get that promotion, I'm wearing the first day.
Right.
You might need, and sometimes you like see something, you're just like, oh, or you might take a picture of it, right? You might be like, oh, when I reach that spot, that's when I'm
Mhm.
gonna get that Brandon Blackwood handbag. Like that's what I'm gonna get.
Right.
Right? So I think that's also like, a little healthy incentive for yourself too of knowing some aspirational pieces of your style that when you climb in your career to that place of an executive or a leader, you want that.
That's good. And that consistency communicates so much about you as a person as well as how you operate in business, right? Um, so this is hilarious. I have to say this. So there is a comment here. Bless you, Yawa, that if I was a pastor, you would show up.
That's
You
right.
you want me? You wouldn't want that. You wouldn't want.
Yes, we
I'm like,
would. We
you know,
would.
the saints and the ain'ts, like they would get it. I couldn't. That wouldn't be me. Um, so
Yes.
a lot of where we live right now is, let's say, that hybrid work environment or remote even. So let's talk a little bit about the digital image paramount. I know when we first went through the pandemic, I decided to. That's when I first decided to change up my glasses because all you could see was from here on up, and so if you couldn't see all my fabulous outfit from the bottom,
Yeah.
then I
Yeah.
wanted you to be able to see my personality again through my face. So, how do you recommend people sort of navigate if they are working in a mostly hybrid remote um, area? Is it like the background? Is it anything about the attire, but they can still get some of that authenticity and branding through?
Yeah, 100. Like the pandemic changed so many things around the workplace and attire, and more people are like, I need to feel comfortable. Like these stilettos,
Hmm.
forget them. Or like these fitted skirts, I don't want it no more, right? And so there's definitely a relaxed energy. So if you are in a hybrid space, like I would definitely encourage you to update your selection of basics, right? And so those are the pieces that are super comfortable for you that you can rinse and repeat week after week and working from home. So invest in really great lightweight breathable pants, right, that you can easily put on. Maybe they've got an elastic waistband so you don't have to fiddle with no zippers and pulls and ties. And when you are going through your routine, you can easily pop these pieces on. So I really love anything that is elastic, wide leg, free flowing, that and it might even be a maxi skirt if you're even more into dresses and skirts because maybe you have a bit of more feminine vibe. But anything like that is still helping you to feel like you're going to work because you're not wearing sweatpants or just a pair of shorts, but like I've got a full work day and I still need to change my clothes so I don't feel like I'm just lounging about, but I'm still comfortable. So I would definitely incorporate some of those basics and then give a lot of attention and energy and investment into your tops because this is what you see
Yeah.
on the screen, right? So it's your tops. And then again, what is the go to jewelry or accessory that you're working with? I tell some of my clients, like, you might just have a little box next to in your office or next to your laptop, wherever you work, where you've got a few pairs of earrings or a necklace or two. So that if you are in a rush and you get on camera, you're like, whoa, let me just put a little something on. You might even have a little lipstick or lip gloss right there with you, but something that you can just easily to, and a mirror that you can easily do a spot check for yourself, especially if you work from home all the time. And sometimes you just are like, okay, I'm going into my office and I know I can get myself together. But I would definitely make sure that you invest in pieces that have color, some
Mm-hmm.
print or textured details in your tops, because again, you have this box and it's closest to your face. Now, as an image consultant, I do color analysis for my clients, and so I will give them recommendations on colors that work best for their skin tone, their hair, their eyes, their features, right? And so that's a space that if you know that space well, you can lean into those colors that you know really complement you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then easily have those be in rotation. And investing in thinking too about those tops and pieces. Think about things that don't require you to iron, right? Think about
Yes,
some
right.
nice cottons. It's summertime. Linen can get a little troubling sometimes with the wrinkles, but it's a little more forgiving in the summertime, right? Some
Mm-hmm.
great cotton materials are things that you can just put on and not have to worry about it being wrinkled, or I didn't iron it, I didn't press it, etc. Right? So those are some of the things I would recommend if you work from home.
This is good. So another investment, I see one of our members. Hey, Kim Roxy. So Kim Roxy owns an amazing makeup brand
Ooh, yeah.
company. She has a brow duo that I live and die by. So if you haven't
Yes.
checked that out, you definitely do need to do that.
Mhm.
But investing in being able to learn how to apply makeup. So maybe it's a makeup application class, maybe
Mhm.
it's just skincare for
Mhm.
gentlemen, something so that, again, because your face is front and center in that virtual space, you want to make sure that you're looking your best.
Such a good point. Such a good point. I can't wait to check out Kim Roxy's
Girl, you
makeup
need
line.
to run, don't walk. Let me tell you, do
Oh, let's go. I see you. Yes. Thank you so
it.
much. This is by Shaka Givens, the hat, Black women owned designer. But yeah, I love that about the makeup and grooming. It's so true. Like
Mhm, mhm.
whether you wear makeup or not, like skincare,
Right.
taking care of your teeth, like some of this stuff, y'all, you might laugh, but a smile, these are those nonverbal cues speaking that you want to feel confident and good in these areas, and definitely know what your go-to quick routine is. Like, what's the thing that if you have at least this on your face, you feel ready, right? I personally think that making sure your eyebrows are groomed is super important in the space, because that's where attention goes into your eyes. And then
Mhm.
having something on the lip, whether it's moisturized in a
Something.
nude or a pop, something on your lips, because you're talking, speaking on the call. Like,
Yeah,
we need that
yeah.
moisturized. Thank you.
So there was another question in the chat. Do you believe in people finding their signature color?
Yeah, sure, why not? I think the signature, a signature color could be a mix of colors that look really great with your skin.
Mhm,
It could
mhm.
also be a meaning behind the color, right? Colors emit energy, right? So red is the boldest color. It is unmissable. You're always gonna see it, right? I intentionally wore red for this, so y'all wouldn't miss me, right? Like, but it is a color that emits boldness, right? And presence. Orange communicates creativity, right? Yellow adds joy.
Mhm,
Green adds serenity. Blue, dependability. Colors have meanings. So a line, you could do a quick Google search, right? So many mediums that you could find what some of your signature colors might be that really work well with you. I think the one thing that is important in the color space, though, is that you make sure that you wear colors that really do complement your skin. I do see,
Certainly, yeah, yeah, yeah.
right, that folks will be like, I really love this shade of pink. And I'm like, this blush pink is not for your melanated skin. Like, it is doing you no favors, right? And sometimes that's a hard thing because you go out in the store and sometimes the color palettes ain't for you.
Right, right.
Okay, they are not for you, right? So if you are into neutrals, lean into the browns, get some rich browns going, right?
Mhm.
Like, you find the color that works well with you, but be careful about muted colors that can really just feel lackluster against your skin.
That's a word. That's a word right there. I know I tend to gravitate toward jewel tones, and then,
Mm,
of course, African prints, all
yeah.
type of prints. That give me all of them. All of
Good. And Paula be rocking these colors and prints, y'all. You see this top? And Paula, is this a top or is this a dress?
it is a top.
It's a top.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So I can't believe that this hour has flown by. So we have just one more question. And I'm trying to see. I really didn't want to necessarily go heavy with this one, but I'll say let's go with our younger selves because we have members as young as high school students all the way through experienced professionals. So if you could give your younger professional self one piece of advice about developing your personal image and authentic style, what would it be?
You that chick.
You've been that chick, yes.
You've been that chick. That's what I would say to my younger self. Like, I was not the most stylish. I was not the most popular. I was not the most, I don't think, anything. Like, I had my crew of like the smart black girls and the gifted and
Mhm.
talented program, and I was in plenty of settings growing up, and I was the only black girl in the class, in the school, my brother and I. So I know what it's like to be in these PWI environments. I also know what it's like to have really dope, strong communities of Black folks around you. But this whole element of style for me is really about an exploration of your self confidence and your self expression. And I think that it can be a really beautiful thing that can grow as you become more deeply knowledgeable about who you are, and growing beyond comfortable and even going beyond confidence when you really get that conviction, and when the roots in who you are, and knowing that like God is setting you up for some amazing things, and you're like, I'm gonna lead with that, and everybody else better get on board or get out the way.
Love it. I love it. And I would say that to our members right now, right? You are in store for amazing things. So people need to get out of the way and make sure you are dressed appropriately when it is time for your next level, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and dress as you, dress authentically you.
Authentically you. This once again has been amazing. Thank you so much for your time and your insights, Nana. You are incredible.
Thank you, Paula. Right back at you. But I think we might have to have part two. I'm going to ask Miss Paula some questions because I saw the comments. They're like, we want Miss Paula chat.
I gave enough. I gave enough. Listen, thank you all for your time and attention to. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Pastor Paula signing off.